Hey guys, what's going on? Thanks for joining me once again and welcome back to another collection video. First of all, I'd like to say that this is actually the first up-to-date video I've done. So all the previous ones you've seen were made several months ago and I've been gradually uploading them. I made them before I created the channel. And now we're up to speed though, because this is the first one that's actually made in August this year, August 2020. So after uploading those previous ones, I'm finally up to date. So everything you see from now on will be current, which is, yeah, different. And I'm looking forward to it. Secondly, I'd just like to say to everyone watching, to each and every one of you who has subscribed to this channel, who has watched my videos, who has shown an interest, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Words cannot sufficiently describe how much I appreciate your interest. To be honest, I was a little bit reluctant to start this channel at first because I thought maybe not even 5 people would be interested in what I had to say. But as it happens, I've received a lot of feedback and a lot of positive feedback, a lot of kind words, which really surprised me, and I was happy to hear that, of course. So it's been really wonderful to hear from everyone and their comments. I'm glad you enjoyed the channel and I hope you continue to watch because I have a lot to talk about. So I won't go on about that too much. I'm not going to gush excessively, but thank you, all of you, so much. Really appreciate it. All right, so just before I get into today's video, what I've just put on in the background, you may have recognized it. This is a classic album. This is Frost by Enslaved. So, of course, Enslaved is a Norwegian black metal band commonly associated with Viking metal because of the lyrical content, especially on earlier albums. If you listen to the actual music though, I think it has more in common with black metal, but as I said, just with the lyrics and the imagery, there's that undercurrent of a Viking theme, which is made very clear on this back cover here. So Frost was the second full length, I believe, after their split. So they did a split with Emperor Hordanesland, and then their debut was Vikinga Veldi, and then this was the second one. This was the first one I actually got back into in the day. In the mid-90s, the two bands which I really got into heavily first were Emperor and Enslaved, probably as a result of that split. And this album, this was my soundtrack to 1996. At that time I was in my last year of high school, and I remember I listened to this album pretty much every day of that year. So it invokes very nostalgic memories, and it brings back just exciting memories of when I was first getting into this music. To this day I still love this album, it's just brilliant. Just show you the inner cover. So yeah, what I like about it is the logo is actually a sticker on the jewel case. Then you have the picture of the fjord landscape here. So lyrics there in Norwegian and English. And that classic band photo there. This was when the band was a trio with Trim Thorsen as a drummer, who's since moved on to Emperor, of course. But yeah, what can be said? Just amazing, majestic, atmospheric Norwegian black metal with folky elements. That Viking element is really strong with songs like that acoustic track, Yggdrasil, which I loved back in the day, still do. I could honestly read every song title out here because they're all brilliant, but some of my favorites: Loka, Fenris, Svarta Vida, Gylfaginning, Iserda's Dronning. So many. Honestly, there are no bad tracks on this album. Just brilliant, majestic, atmospheric Norwegian black metal. So if you haven't heard it for whatever reason, definitely check it out. That's Enslaved with Frost. All right, so now getting on to the topic of today. What this video is a collection update. So I'm going to talk about some purchases I recently made locally. Now, for those of you who don't know me personally or all that well, I actually live in Bangkok, Thailand. So I've lived here for quite a few years. And during the lockdown, it was the same as everywhere else, although Thailand did deal with the lockdown situation a bit better than other countries in the sense that there's been minimal COVID infections here, which is great. But of course we went through that depressing lockdown period where you couldn't go out, you couldn't go shopping, things like that. So there were a lot of restrictions. You basically had to stay at home. But as shops gradually opened, I contacted a good friend of mine who owns a metal shop in Bangkok. For those of you who don't know, Thailand, especially Bangkok, has actually a very active and a very healthy metal scene. There's a lot of active bands, a lot of bars playing covers and originals. Even international bands are starting to come down down here, and it's just a really energetic and vibrant scene, I find. So if you ever find yourself in Thailand, Bangkok, yeah, definitely check out that scene, check out some rock bars, metal bars. I can advise you if you like. But long story short, I know a lot of metal fans over here, and some of the people I know own labels, or they own bars, or they own shops. One such place is 666 Records, which is based in downtown Bangkok. I know the owner, Apirak. He's a legend, great guy, really nice guy. And during the lockdown, I was getting itchy feet because obviously my overseas orders were taking a long time to get in. I'd listened to my collection to death, so I was thirsty to hear some new music. So basically I contacted him and said, are you open, like open for business? Because I know a lot of shops are closed. And this was in the stage where shops were opening up again. And he said, oh, well, actually, I'm open sometimes, so let me know when you're coming in and I'll open up for you. So what a cool guy. He opened the shop for me, especially to come in at that time. And I jumped on the opportunity. So I picked up some musical releases just because I felt starved at the time. So if you're ever in Bangkok and you want to go metal shopping, I recommend his shop. It's called 666 Records. I'll leave a link in the description. And he also owns a record label by the same name, 666 Records. Sorry, 666. And they've released quite a lot of Asian metal bands. So more on that in a moment. So anyway, I went to Apirak's shop and had a look around, and I made a few purchases. So we're just going to get straight into that today, and I'll try not to go on about it too long because I have a few releases to talk about. So I got 4 CDs and 1 vinyl. So for something a bit different today, I'm going to start with the vinyl. This is Baptism with the Ethereal Midnight. So sorry about that glare. It's probably because I have the plastic. Yeah, Baptism with the Ethereal Midnight. So hopefully you can see that in this light. First off, I really like this artwork. It's very atmospheric. This is the back here with the song titles. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Baptism is classic Finnish black metal with rabid, harsh and shrieking vocals. So it's sort of played in that typical Finnish style. With this album, the overall production and drum sound is quite raw, but as always with Finnish black metal, the riffs really shine through. So this is because they are played in that typical Finnish way, where they're so bleak and emotive, and they really conjure a powerful atmosphere, I find, as is seen in the music of other bands such as Satanic Warmaster. Satanic Warmaster, in my opinion, is one of the best black metal bands that's come out in the last, let's say roughly about the last 20 years, because those riffs that he writes in the songs, they're so emotive, they never disappoint. This is in the same vein. Incidentally, the credits show that Satanic Warmaster himself, otherwise he sometimes goes by that name as a person, because it's largely a one-man black metal project. Sometimes he goes by the name of Tyrant Werewolf. He co-wrote some lyrics for this album, so he contributed, and that's no coincidence, because there are some similarities with Satanic Warmaster. But basically, the songs on this feature a variety of tempos, from the fast oral snowstorm-sounding bombardment of those frenzied riffs, to breakdowns of groovy, catchy sections, to slow, yearning, and melancholic melodies. So there's always varieties within the songs, but an overall consistent sound and atmosphere. So if you like that sort of bleak, emotive, harsh Finnish black metal sound, definitely check it out. Like I said, this is yet another Finnish black metal which plays in that style which I find is unique and only the Finns can do. I can't really explain what I mean by that, but this scene tends to have a distinct sound, even though there's a lot of diversity within it. They have the ability to invoke these really bleak and sorrowful atmospheres, which make me picture images of things like a blizzard blanketing a forest in the middle of winter on an overcast day, or perhaps staring up to the full moon while in the middle of the forest in the dead of night. Just very, very atmospheric, so it's fantastic. If I hold this here, you can see that all the tracks are in English, which is unusual because a lot of Finnish bands sing in their native tongue, which it sort of suits the harshness of the black metal vocal sound, I think. But anyway, lyrically, they're sort of typical black metal themes, but written in a very sort of poetic, powerful, and non-cheesy way, which I really like. And definitely not cliched or predictable, so that's what I really enjoy. As is the case with a lot of black metal albums, there are not too many standout tracks. But that's fine, because with black metal it's that overall mood or feeling that you're often looking for. But I will say I have a few favorites, like basically side B, which is tracks 6 to 10, just unbeatable. But some of my other favorites, track 4, Centuries in Everdark Ashes, that's got some bleak and amazing riffs, so emotive. Track 6, Forest of Suicidal Memories, more sorrowful, bleak riffs. Track 7, one of my favorites, Triumphant in War and Hate. That contains some really memorable and catchy mid-paced melodies accompanying the fast riffs. And I find this album just gets better and better as it goes on. Like track 8, Thy Heart Bleeds. That's got some really fast, frantic, angry riffs with a bleak atmosphere, also breaking down into some very groovy, heavy, catchy riffs, as well as returning to the blast beats. A brilliant song. Thy Heart Bleeds, is probably my favorite song on the album. Happy weekend, Dave. Alright, then track 9, the title track, the Beherial Midnight. There's so much emotion and bleakness pouring out of those riffs, and some really solid, catchy mid-paced riffs, just great. Track 10, this is, I believe, it's an Untitled instrumental closer. This is a synth-based track, which sounds very grandiose and majestic with some harsh, raspy vocals sprinkled over the top. So it's sort of reminiscent of Wongraven, you know, that Norwegian medieval synth project done by Satyr or Satyricon. And it also invokes a similar vibe to Satanic War Master's Blessed Be the Grim Arts from Karelian Satanist Madness. So that song, Blessed Be the Grim Arts by Satanic War Master, amazing, majestic, powerful, emotional. If you like that, you'll like the outro to this. Just fantastic. So, as you may have gathered, I would recommend this album, this band, if you like bands such as their fellow countrymen, Satanic War Master, and also Horna. I think that's I'll just say Horna, the Finnish pronunciation. Particularly the Hedon Tawny demo by Horna. And there's also elements of some Norwegian bands like Dark Throne, Burzum, and Ulvas Nattens Madrigal. Although there's still that overall distinct Finnish identity that I find. By the way, other bands which this band has an association with are Sargeist, Behexen, and The True Black Dawn, in addition to Satanic War Master and Horna. So right there you have a list of the best and the most highly regarded bands in the Finnish scene. So if you like that kind of stuff, definitely check this out, because it's just brilliant. Very atmospheric, very emotional. I'm just going to show you the disc. So it comes on plain black vinyl, but I really like the label, so it's got this finger here to show side 1. And then side 2 is denoted by the goat's horns. And there is also a basic insert, no poster or anything, but it's got lyrics clearly laid out in English, and they're readable for once, which is unusual for for some black metal albums, but amazing. I always like to read the lyrics when I can, so that's fantastic. So if you're just looking for that classic Finnish raw emotive black metal sound, definitely check this out. The First Baptism album. This is the Beherial Midnight. By the way, they've done so many albums that I've found it hard to keep up with them, but I've seen on other people's channels they've recommended other albums, so I'm definitely interested to check more out. If you're a fan of them, which albums do you recommend? Let me know. Alright, so now going to the CDs. I have 4 CDs to talk about from the shop. So when I was in 666 Records, I went up to the counter with my 3 selections, and then Apirat said to me, hey, check out this new band on my label. And I said, okay, yeah, what style do they play? And he said, black metal. And I said, who do they sound like? And he said, Marduk. Okay, sold. So for those of you who know me, I would say Marduk is probably my favorite black metal band of all time. So if someone says a band sounds similar to them, I'll definitely check them out. So here we go. This is Dravokh with Omen. So I'm hoping I'm pronouncing the name correctly. Dravokh is a band from Indonesia, black metal band, and as I said, they're signed to 666 Records. So pretty cool cover art there. You have the lyrics laid out. and same design on the disc. So, how would I describe this album and Dravokh in general? Basically, it's fast blasting, clattery black metal in the vein of Marduk. So, especially more recent albums, I find this has a lot of similarities with the Mortis era Marduk. So, if you're a fan of albums like Plague Angel and Rom 512 and the ones that came after that, especially Plague Angel, you will love this. So Plague Angel was one where they managed to somehow inject Marduk sound with even more ferocity and grimness, like so energetic, so brutal, and so uncompromising. It was brilliant. So on this album, it's pretty much the same thing. You're bombarded by a whirlwind of fast riffs and thunderous clattery drumming. While it's loaded with blast beats, they also shift into some breakdowns and some groovy, catchy sections, also similarly to Marduk. If you think of those albums like Heaven Shall Burn, Nightwing, and so on, they always do that. They shift into those, like the groovy breakdown parts, which is awesome. I would say the drumming in this is similar to Dominator's style, so Dominator of Dark Funeral, in the sense that he plays a lot of blast beats, but he has varying levels of intensity, like the mid-pace level, and then it gets faster, and then it gets faster. So like it's always blast beats and relentless, but he can pace it out a bit. Some songs also have crawl parts to them too, so don't think it's all just like Panzer Division Marduk, although I love that album, its relentless nature, but this is sort of in the vein of those earlier mid-period Marduk albums as well, where they slow down and they go into the groovy parts. So on top of that, the vocals are sick. They're just really fierce and harsh in the vein of Mortis of Marduk. Also maybe in a way similar to Sabathan, the ex-vocalist of Enthroned, except maybe not as high-pitched. Like Sabathan has a great voice. Unique, definitely. Okay, so on this one, the production is loud and clear, with the drums particularly prominent, but all instruments are clearly audible. So this is a perfect mix, and at the same time remaining harsh and abrasive at all times. So the whole EP on this is brilliant, but a standout track to me is track 3, which is called Sacrilege My Name, with its mean and sinister riffs and groovy flow. So if you're a fan of Marduk, whether mid-period or latter-day period, definitely check this out. And I find a lot of Indonesian bands, they have a lot of passion for their music. I've been to Indonesia before. The metal scene down there is crazy, as is the case with a lot of Southeast Asia, but they really take it seriously, and there's a lot of wild, energetic, passionate bands, and this is definitely one of them. So if you like the stuff I mentioned, definitely check it out. This is Dravokh with Omen. Sick album. Alright, coming to the next one, another brilliant album. Whew. I'll just start by saying it's very rare these days. Like, there's so much music out there that it's rare that a band really kicks my ass these days, because a lot of times you've heard a band which sounds similar, or they sound like this, or they sound like that. This is one band, however, which has really stood out to me. This is Medieval Demon with Necrotic Rituals from the Unholy Past. Medieval Demon is a Greek black metal band, but as you can see on the label here, this was released in Asia through Witchhammer Productions. I also like the sticker there. It says, fuck to MP3, fuck to CDR, fuck to download. So I think grammatically they don't need the two there, but you get the sentiment. They're saying fuck off with that and just buy original, which is what I believe in as well. So I'll just take it out of this plastic case to show you a bit more clearly. But as I said, this is a band which has really stood out to me, and I've been playing it a lot in the last couple of months. So corpse painted grim cover there. No lyrics inside, but just this very sort of Hellenic Greek picture. Very black metal there, and song titles on the back. Alright, so I have a lot to say about this album. This is a compilation which was released in 2010 on the band's previous work, but a lot of the music was actually written in the early 90s, and it's basically a collection of songs from their previous demo splits and early days. This is a Greek black metal band which plays in the old vein. It's like a lot of Greek bands, it's both raw and atmospheric at the same time. Very epic and grandiose, with the use of a lot of keyboards which really heighten the atmosphere. Being a Greek band, they once again stand out from the Scandinavian sound and have that very Hellenic sound. And this album takes the listener, for me, this is my description, on a mental journey into nocturnal landscapes, mysticism and rituals in the Hellenic world. So just magic. On this album, I'll start by saying the keyboards play a significant role. in the music, and they're often layered over everything in the background, but maybe not to the same extent as Emperor's in the Nightside Eclipse. So you're not hearing the keyboards all the time, but they still play a prominent role. I appreciate that because a lot of the guitars are still in the foreground and you can still hear the raw chugging riffs. The drums are really thunderous and clattery and perfect in the mix, not too loud and not too distracting. They don't outshine the riffs, but you can hear them clearly, especially with the occasional fills where it's kind of like, it just sounds sick. Like honestly, the mix and production on this album is perfect. In my opinion, the vocals are just perfect too. They're those sort of rabid, raspy black metal vocals, which we've all become accustomed to, but they're not too high-pitched or over the top. Sometimes when bands make it too over the high pitch, it's kind of annoying to me, but this is just perfect, that mid-range. This is complemented by the production. It's appropriately raw to give the music that eerie and distant sounding edge, but you can still hear all the instruments clearly, and the vocals are slightly echoing, which creates the perfect mood, sort of dungeon-like. And the drumming has that perfect level of crispness and bite. There's also a lot of diversity with tempos. Songs range from slow to mid-pace to catchy to intense blast beats, and there's obviously a mixture of tempos in between songs. Once the album takes off, a lot of the songs have some really frantic, out of control sound, like a freight train, which is out of control but just staying on the tracks, but amazing. Oh, so I'm trying to get through this as fast as possible, so bear with me, but you can see 11 tracks. The first two are fucking epic and long, but they're amazing. But basically, my favorite tracks are all of them. So first two tracks, which are called number 1, Innocent Blood, As the Knife Touch Your Neck, and October Fall. Both are just so epic, atmospheric, and diverse, taking you on this sensational journey. It is brilliant, like that mythical world of Greece, you know, that myth and legend for which that country is so rich in. When I was younger, like in high school, we had to read all the Greek myths, and I was just mesmerized and fascinated by them. And I find with a lot of this music, it conjures up that imagery, which is just amazing. Other favorite tracks, track 3, No Flesh Shall Be Sharped. That's got a frantic, amazing riff, which is fast and loaded with blast beats. This creates a brilliant atmosphere, and the bass melody is particularly prominent, giving the song that classic Hellenic pulse, which we've all become accustomed to in that classic Greek black metal sound. And by the way, that track 3, this is when the album really takes off with the speed. So the first two are sort of atmospheric, just not going in full throttle, but then it really gets going. Track 4, Dark Widow, continues in the same vein and reminds me a little bit of another Greek band called Zephyrus. Zephyrus is one of my favorite all-time bands in the Greek black metal scene, just so criminally underrated, brilliant, unique. So if you haven't checked out Zephyrus's album, Entrance and Wandering on the Seven Zones, do yourself a favor. I'm going to talk about that later. Do I have that album here? Yes, I do. So that's Zephyrus, Entrance and Wandering on the Seven Zones. Amazing album. Okay, so then track 5, Fields of Tears. That's got some really catchy mid-paced riffs. Track 7, Rise of the Moon. Some brilliantly catchy, frantic riffs and grooves, complemented by clattery drumming and a lot of thunderous fills. Oh, so good. And also some atmospheric synth interludes. That's the thing with this band. Sometimes they just stop in the middle of the song and they have this kind of ritualistic, ambient, haunting keyboard sections, which are just great. Then also track 9, Doomsday. That's a slow, heavy, groovy riff, which sounds so haunting and atmospheric. Track 10, Queen of Sorrow. That's a kind of classical romantic gothic track consisting of synthesizers and a lot of haunting violins and string instruments. So in that sense, to me, it's reminiscent of a little bit of Cradle of Filth, like early Cradle of Filth, and also that amazing gem of a Croatian black metal band, Castrum. Oh man, if you guys haven't checked out Black Silhouette Enfolded in Sunrise by Castrum, another album, but it was really reminiscent of that. Then also track 13, Night of the Infernal Lords. The plodding catchy riff there is just backed by this deep bass pulse and launches into solid blast beats, backed by haunting and atmospheric synths. And this reminds me a bit of Greece's most famous black metal band, probably, Rotting Christ. Manic shrieked vocals. So what can I say, guys? This album is one which has really stood out to me over the last months, or even the last year, and I've put it on repeat since listening to this. So thank you 666 Records for showing me this band. Just amazing. If you love Greek black metal, like me, and like bands such as Rotting Christ, Zephyrus, Varathron, all that good stuff, definitely check it out. It's in that classic Greek vein. So this is Medieval Demon with, I always forget the title, it's long, Necrotic Rituals from the Unholy Past. Just there. Sensational, 10 out of 10. Okay. Up next, Shifting Gears. This is another album I saw in 666 Records. And when I saw the cover, I knew I had to buy it. This is Metalucifer with Heavy Metal Malaysian Chainsaw. Metalucifer is one of those bands I've always heard about in the Asian scene. They're a Japanese heavy metal band. And I think actually a few years ago they were supposed to come to Thailand, but it ended up getting cancelled, I think. If that wasn't the case, I missed out big time because they're a brilliant band. But yeah, like I said, I'd always heard about them, but when I first heard about them properly in detail, it was on Canyon's channel. So Canyon Bickle, in his collection update, he talked about Heavy Metal Chainsaw, which is, I think, a different album to this, but Canyon's channel is one of my favorite channels. It was one of the first ones I watched and one of the primary influences for me to start my own channel. So he's been a great inspiration. Canyon, if you're watching this, thanks very much, and thanks for introducing me to this band. So on Canyon's channel, he plays samples, as probably a lot of you know who he is. Like if you watch these kind of channels anyway, you probably already subscribe, and rightly so. But on his channel, he always plays samples of the songs. So when I saw him reviewing Heavy Metal Chainsaw, I heard some samples and I thought, wow, this band sounds great. It's just that classic old school heavy metal sound. So when I saw this in the shop, I thought, gotta jump on it. So here we have the disc. Very cool. And cover artwork there, the guy in flames holding the chainsaw. Lyrics. So there's the Japanese core of the band, and they also have some German guest members, including Tormentor from the German black thrash band Disaster. More on them later because Disaster is one of my favorite German bands, so this collaboration is just amazing. Alright, so as I said, Metalucifer are a Japanese heavy metal band. They play traditional heavy metal in that really raw underground and old, with that really raw underground and old school vibe. So a lot of their songs are and lyrics are dedicated to just heavy metal and the concept of heavy metal. So in that sense, maybe they're the Japanese Manowar conceptually, but not musically, because Manowar is quite different musically. Like Manowar is very, when I hear Manowar, I think of He-Man or Conan the Barbarian. You know, it's very epic, grandiose and majestic, and I think Manowar takes a lot of influence from German classical music, whereas this band is dedicated to the concept of heavy metal, Metalucifer, except it's more in that raw, stripped back, old school, straightforward vein. So I think of denim, leather, patches, spikes, stud, bullet belts, that kind of thing. Just amazing. A lot of the riffing and melodies are in the vein and seemingly inspired by early Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, so no complaints there. But being Japanese, they also have their own distinct sound, especially with the vocals. So basically, if you're interested in early Iron Maiden or Judas Priest, especially Iron Maiden, check this band out, you'll probably be interested. They write extremely catchy songs, chugging thrashy riffs, raw bombastic drumming, but also fused with really catchy melodies and harmonies and fantastic guitar solos. This band has a really good grip on melody and quality songwriting. They just have these hooks that reel you in every time. I love it. They have also a lot of strutting, razor sharp riffs, and the guitar solos and harmonies. The vocals are kind of standard heavy metal vocals, but also original since they're Japanese. By the way, I'm friends with another Japanese heavy metal band in Thailand. I'm not sure how to pronounce their name. Is it Nakabide or Nakabida? But the vocal style with Japanese bands I find is unique. But anyway, they're a great band too, inspired by Judas Priest. But if you like old school heavy metal, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, jump on this because it's fantastic. The whole album is amazing, so just bear with me. The opening title track, Heavy Metal Chainsaw, really catchy chorus you can sing along to immediately. Track 2, Flight of Iron Pegasus, that's got a mean blistering guitar solo. Track 3, Warriors Ride on Chariots, extremely catchy, and that's got this kind of shouting chant like, oi, So you're immediately hooked when you hear that song. Also amazing vocal melodies with the pre-chorus and chorus, and a really catchy sing-along chorus. My Way is Heavy Metal, that's track 4. That song is pure fun and extremely catchy, with this extremely catchy sing-along chorus and high-pitched vocal climax and a really brilliant guitar solo. Track 5, Heavy Metal Samurai. A catchy as fuck thrashy riff starts that song. It's just ingenious. It just reels you in. Like amazing. But anyway, you've got to hear it. So immediately you're hooked on that. And that's got another extremely catchy sing-along chorus. Track 6, Dracula. That's got a marching, thrashy, catchy riffs and a chorus which is actually reminiscent of Anvil's Scenery. So the Anvil album, Metal on Metal, they have that song Scenery. And the chorus of Dracula sounds similar to that. So it goes, Dracula, like, you're just like Anvil's Scenery. So, sorry to expose you to my fucking untuneful, horrific singing, but you get the picture. The melody is exactly the same, so I'm not sure if that was an intentional tribute to Anvil, but either way, very cool. Okay, and then the guitar lick at the end of that song, just like in Except Fast as a Shark, is an eargasm, like, I just love it. So then, second last track, Metalucifer. That's a slow and epic instrumental track loaded with guitar solos and harmonies, and that catches a very early Maiden-esque feel, like particularly from the self-titled album. So then it speeds up and becomes galloping and fast, much like Iron Maiden. So it's a bit reminiscent of songs like Transylvania and Ides of March. So again, no complaints because I love those songs, as do a lot of metal fans. But it's not exactly the same, but it's capturing that overall vibe. Last track, Lost Sanctuary, Maiden influence again. That's a fantastic closer capturing the Maiden vibe once again, with twin guitar harmonies and melodies and galloping riffs and some really passionate, standout, high-pitched vocals. It's the perfect closer which has got all of the brilliant aspects of this band, which I mentioned. So definitely check it out. Oh, wow. This is an album, since buying it, I listen to this a few times a week. Like, it's not one of those ones where you buy and reach for occasionally. For me, it's just ecstatic. Like, I put this on and I'm in a good mood. I listen to it at least a couple of times a week since I bought it. So if you've never heard this band, definitely check them out. This album is a great start, in my opinion. That's Metalucifer from Japan with Heavy Metal Malaysian Chainsaw. Interesting title. I don't know what the significance of Malaysian is, but maybe someone can enlighten me there. Okay. Right. Okay, we're almost done. So, as I said, they were my purchases from 666 Records, run by and managed by Apirak, who's been a friend of mine for about the last 7 years in Thailand. Great shop, great guy. Definitely check out 666 Records, the shop, and the label. Alright, now the last CD, I've got one more for you. This wasn't from 666, but I received it about the same time, so I felt it was appropriate to lump it in. Excuse me. Damn, thirsty work. Cheers. Alright, so the last album I'm going to talk about, the band name is hard to pronounce, so forgive me if I'm wrong. This is Psuchagogoi with Under a Green Light. So I'll just take this out so you can see this a little better. There's the cover, the logo. So this band is many things, and the way I actually found out about this band was through Brian Blaze's channel. So with Brian Blaze, I discovered his channel a few months ago, and I really like his channel. He's got a unique style. I like his delivery, the way he talks about albums, and a lot of the albums he features are fantastic. So anyway, in one of his videos, he talked about this band project, Psuchagogoi, and he was playing in the background this demo called Ominous Forest, and as he described it, it's just this really paranormal, atmospheric, dark ambient music. And I was gripped. That gripped me instantly, and I thought, I've got to check out this band more. So I looked on the Bsndcamp and discovered a lot of releases. So this band plays, well, it's a one-man project actually, performed by one guy who goes under the pseudonym of Cryptogeist. So he's released some albums in black metal style, sort of like depressive black metal style, and also some dark ambient, some acoustic albums, but it's always like that bleak, melancholic, black metal oriented aesthetic, I think. So anyway, I went on there and I couldn't find Ominous Forest. That's only been released on tape and I don't have a tape player. And I just thought what's available on CD on his Bandcamp, and I checked it out. So they mentioned this one. This is a new one, Under a Green Light, and basically it's another ambient album but different to Ominous Forest. How would I describe this in a single phrase? It's ambient, nature worshipping, forest meditation music, in my opinion. So it's an acoustic guitar based album featuring various other string instruments, sometimes some world instruments, some synths and effects and samples. There are some vocals, but I'll get into that. So just show you the disc first of all. So that's Cryptogeist in the forest there. Cool. And just a one-sided sleeve, so there's him again with the song titles. And as you can see here, he said on the Bandcamp, please let me know if you'd like your copy signed. So I said, yeah, why not? And that was very nice. He did that for me, so thanks a lot. Okay, so just talking about the album a bit. It's the kind of album, I think even non-black metal people would like this album. Sort of like for relaxation or helping you get to sleep. Not in the sense that it's boring, because it's definitely not boring. It's just relaxing. So sort of that nature worshipping ambient music. So talking about the tracks a little bit. So track 1, Dawn of the Dancing Foliage. That's got some strumming. That's a strumming acoustic track with a very hypnotic ambient quality. The melodies and sounds in that are slightly reminiscent of traditional Middle Eastern music, or maybe Southern Asian, like Indian music, but very interesting. Track 2, Evergreen Eyes. That's very ethereal and atmospheric sounding, using echoing synths and sound effects with a sad but tranquil atmosphere. So it's a good soundtrack to the wonders and mysteries of the forest. Like imagine being in the forest and in awe of the nature around you. Captures that. Track 3, Silken Moss. On this one, the mood is very mysterious and beckoning. More acoustic guitars with synths layered over the top brilliantly. It makes me imagine being somewhere in the Tolkien-esque world, fantasy world, like somewhere like Rivendell, particularly with the sound effects of running water and nature in the background. So it's got that kind of atmosphere, like pulling you towards this ethereal fantasy world, enshrouded in nature. So great. Track 4, which is called Hues of Green. That's got more of an unsettling, foreboding and haunting tone with distant echoing choral female vocals. So track 4 is when it gets a bit dark. This is really enchanting and spellbinding stuff. Like that kind of reminds me, it's in some ways reminiscent of Aghast. So see my previous video about my review of Aghast's brilliant album Hexerei im Zwielicht der Finsternis, done by the two witches, Nacht und Nebel. Und yeah, so that song has that kind of vibe. Maybe not as sinister as that, but it reminded me of it, so sold me straight away. Okay, track 5, Rapid Shadows. I love that track. That's an atmospheric acoustic track with some classical and folk influences and some distant male vocals this time. Sort of like choral Viking vocals. This is very hypnotic and melancholic. So this track, for me, it's very reminiscent of Ulver's Kveldsanger album. So for those who don't know, Kveldsanger was Ulver's second album, which is acoustic, featuring choral and folk music elements. And even though it's an acoustic album, that's my favorite Ulver album of all time. Spellbinding, enchanting, mesmerizing. If you haven't heard it, just buy it. Actually, I've got it here. Kveldsanger by Ulver. Just a classic, brilliant album. 20 years on, I still love that album. So anyway, track 6 is very reminiscent of that. So Ulver fans might be interested. Track 6, that's called Dusk Goes Dim. What a brilliant closer. That's a haunting atmospheric acoustic outro. You can hear samples of forest animals, like the faint howls of wolves and the noises of owls and other birds. And it sort of conjures an atmosphere of time running out and like the day is fading away into the night. So it takes you on a real journey through nature, atmosphere, amazing. So I think with this project you can only order through the guy's Bandcamp, but I'll leave the links in the description, but this is Psuchagogoi, like paranormal, ethereal, atmospheric music, just great. So that's his album with Under a Green Light. Thanks again for signing it. Okay, well, so I finally got through all of that. Sorry if I rambled on a bit. I know occasionally, as I said, I can't help it if the music means something to me. So if I really want to sell a track, and I'm not sell as sell, but if I really want to express my passion for a track, I can't omit that. So thanks for your patience with this. They're all the releases over anyway. So I don't want to keep you too much longer, but the fact is you're watching this and following me. I can't thank you all enough for your support and for inspiring me to continue to do this. I'm having a lot of fun making these videos, so hopefully you continue watching them because I still have a lot to talk about. But really, you're all great. So once more, thank each and every one of you so much. Okay, so I'm not going to keep you for much longer. I have a lot more stuff to talk about with my existing CD and vinyl collections. Also, I made a recent massive purchase from Hell's Headbangers, and vinyl and CDs, I'll probably have to split those into 2 videos, but honestly, a lot to talk about. So that can wait till next time. But until then, thanks a lot. If you're new, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks for everybody's support. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to making the next one. All right. Thirsty work, so cheers, happy Friday, enjoy your weekend, and stay safe. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks guys, take care.